What's up, guys? Captain Blade J52 here, and it's been a little while since I was last able to make a build video for you guys and to get something out there as far as STO goes. I've had to take care of a few things outside the game, in addition to helping my good buddy Timberwolf with his charity event for the MS Society recently, which went very well, by the way. We shattered our goal. And anyways, since I've been away, there's been a few things that have happened in the world of STO, such as the Jem'Hadar Dreadnought, Jem'Hadar Heavy Escort, and also the Keldon have finally made their way over from console to PC. They actually came to us in the form of the Infinity Lockbox, with the Keldon and the Dreadnought being in the box, and the Heavy Escort Carrier being in the low-buy store. Now, one thing I do find to be a little bit interesting is this time it was the Heavy Escort that went to the low-buy store instead of the Dreadnought, so a little bit of a turnaround there. But either way, still glad to see these fine ships finally make their way over from console to PC. Now, for me, I was glad that the Keldon finally came along because anybody that knows me, anybody that's seen my comments and everything knows that I usually had flown a T5U Cardassian Galore for a number of years as my main flagship, so for me, this actually meant a flagship upgrade. Now for me, I actually flew the Keldon a number of years ago now on Star Trek Bridge Commander, so for me, having this ship in game is a way to have a little piece of that back, in a way. Being able to relive a few of my younger years, and also some of my Bridge Commander days at the same time. So for me, that's pretty cool to see this ship in game and get to fly it again. It's been about, I would say, going on close to 10 years since I was able to actually be at the helm of a Galore, or a Keldon again. So very, very glad to see this. But anyway, some of the major differences you can see between the Galore and the Keldon as far as hull goes is the little tail fins here that were not present on the original Galore, and then this little extra section here, which looks kind of like a coffin, for lack of a better way of describing it. You can kind of see how it extends out over the back end of the ship, like where it didn't on the Galore previously, but that's some of the major differences. Now, for my Space Barbie people out there, you can skin the Keldon up to where it will resemble a Galore if you prefer the look of the Galore over the Keldon. So that's one cool thing that you can do there. Now, as far as some of the stuff that comes with the ship, one good thing that I do want to go ahead and put out there, a lot of people like the Galore, not just for its performance, but also for the fact that it gave access to the spiral wave disruptors, which are, to my knowledge, the only weapon in game at the moment that at very rare has 4 modifiers of ACC times 2 and DMG times 2. But whenever you purchase the Keldon, you get 4 of these spiral waves already on the ship. They come in the levelless format, so if you want to convert them over, throw them in the thing. They convert to Mark 12, and there you go. Now, the Keldon, when you purchase it, just as the Galore did previously, you will get access to purchase additional spiral wave disruptors. So that is a good thing there. But as far as the Keldon itself goes, I'm going to be doing a bit of a higher end build as far as tanking goes this time, because this is my flagship. I wanted to do a bit of a higher end build with it. Now, down the road, I will be doing a mid-range budget for the build. I'll also be doing perhaps a bare bones budget if people want to see both for the ship as well. But I'm going to break my mold a little bit this time and go for something a bit more high end. But anyways, I'll pull this up here. I'll show you guys the trait and everything. As far as the mastery goes, the first 4 basic abilities, pretty much for me, were the ideal mastery, and I'm glad to see that it got that. We have absorptive hull plating, the rapid repairs, enhanced hull plating, and the armored hull. Now, the only real thing I would say as far as the Galore and the Keldon goes, for the Keldon, I kind of, instead of rapid repairs, would have loved to have seen something else that maybe had a little bit of crit severity, a little bit of crit chance. But, and the reason I say that is because to me, they've always been portrayed as more of a battle cruiser type thing Not necessarily a full cruiser, but not necessarily a full escort either. But again, to me, that's my only real thing I would say as far as that goes. But now the trait is Insidious Tactics, and whenever you use an Aceton Beam, Surgical Strikes, or Torpedo Transport Warhead, you get a 1% crit, if I could words, crit chance, and 5% crit severity for 30 seconds, and that can stack up to 3 times. So that's a fun little thing that you can have there. Then as far as the ship it goes, this is actually the universal console it came with, is a Spiral Wave Disruptor Lance. Now you can put the lance on the T5 Galore or the T5U variation, or use it on the Keldon itself. So it will work on any Cardassian ship, so that's a cool thing that we have there. Now, one thing I did decide to mix it up a little bit this time. I'll show that in just a minute. Some people probably already saw it on the tooltip. As far as weapons go, I am using a bit of a rainbow disruptor build. It's all still disruptors, but a bit of a quote-unquote rainbow in terms of color. I have my 4 Spiral Wave Disruptors, you can see there. So if anybody's ever wanted to see what one looks like at epic quality, this is what they look like. Whenever they go to Ultra Rare, they gain the Crit X mod, which is sort of a half and half between critical severity and critical chance. So that's a fun little thing that we have there. I have 4 of these on the ship. Then I have a Coalition Disruptor. It started out as a DMG ×2 Crit D, and it got a Crit H mod when I upgraded it. I would have loved to have seen it went to a DMG or a Crit D, but either way, still does me pretty good. And then the other one, sadly, did not flip and everything. Then I have my Olachi Disruptor, which is a Crit D ×3 Crit H. Then I have my Resonant Disruptor. Whenever it goes to Ultra, it gets a Crit D mod. At least that's what I've always seen it get. But anyway, as far as weapons goes, that's what I've got there. Then for my shields, engines, deflectors, so on, I'm using the 4-piece Kabbalah set. So you can kind of see, as far as the shields go, whenever they hit Ultra Rare, they get the Res All mod, reducing all damage to shields by 10% and adding a little bit of something extra. I'll go ahead and pull that up there. You kind of see the 4-piece set bonus, which is one reason why I'm using the Kabbalah. I'll discuss that in just a moment. Then we have the engines for the Kabbalah. It gets sector speed 2 and then turn whenever it goes to epic quality. Then we have the deflector, which gets the hull heal and then shield and hull cap. So that's some nice little stuff that we have there. Now the shields, the impulse engines, and the deflector come from the Dust to Dust mission. This is something you can get for free. Now, I waited to show the Kabbalah core last, as far as this stuff goes. It is an amp core, so whenever it goes to Ultra Rare, it will get the amp mod that a lot of people like. Now, I use the Kabbalah core on most of my higher end builds because of what it does. You can see it's got some pretty standard mods. It's got a little bit of hull restoration, a little bit of shield to aux, that kind of thing. But the main reason is the Kabbalah shield capacitor. It's a AoE shield heal and shield power buff. It grants 9154 shield regeneration to nearby allies, including yourself. 15 shield power for 20 seconds to nearby allies, repairs disabled shields, and it's on a 4-minute recharge. So I definitely like to have this because of the essentially an oh crap shield heal. So that's a good thing for it as far as that goes. But the Kabbalah core itself you can't get unless you had the Kabbalah Samsar, unless you picked that up from the anniversary event. So if you don't have access to the Kabbalah core, I'm actually not going to recommend using the Kabbalah 4P or the Kabbalah set, because in my personal opinion it's not nearly as strong unless you have all 4 pieces, which is one reason why on my budget builds I typically show the Soul Defense or some similar set because of these reasons here. Anyways, we'll go ahead and I'll pull up the info so you can see the set bonuses. For the 2 set, you've got a little bit of hull regeneration, which goes up as the hull decreases. You have the reactive nanite screen. When receiving damage while at 25% or less hit points, 100% chance to apply the nanite screen, which is 15,000 temporary hit points for 15 seconds. Can occur once every 120 seconds. Now, the main reason why I use the Kabbalah 4-piece is the reactive nanite screen. It affects friend and self up to a maximum of 20 people, 5-kilometer sphere. On a 2-minute recharge, when receiving energy damage, nearby allies receive hull healing equal to 20% of the incoming damage for 15 seconds. So that is one major reason I use this. It also, again, does affect you as well. For me, I do have a little bit of a gripe with how they've worded it, as that can confuse people to make them think that it doesn't heal you, but it actually does. So that's a good thing that we have there, and is pretty much the ultimate, oh crap, I'm going to die button as far as the Kabbalah set itself gives you. But anyways, we're going to move on to some of the other stuff. I have, as far as my devices go, because that's really quickly, I have the Temporal Negotiator from the Delta recruitment event a couple years back now, and this is the device I've spoke about in a few other videos. Bridge officer power recharge times are reduced by 50% whenever I use this. This is essentially the device equivalent of the temporal overcharged warp core that you get from the Butterfly mission. So we have that there. Then as far as, I'll show our tactical consoles and stuff really quickly, because that's really easy to explain. I have the Harmonic Resonance Relay. This gives a little bit of disruptor damage, 25%, and then some transphasic projectile damage. And it also grants 5% armor pen to weapons. And it grants the 2-set resonance amplifiers, which is pretty good. It's 3.6 weapon power setting that you get, and then resonance disruption wave increases energy damage dealt to shields by 15%. So that's a pretty cool thing that we have there. And then, anyways, we've got that stuff going there. Our tactical consoles are vulnerability locators from the Spire. We've got 2 of them for disruptors at the moment. Anyways, as far as our engineering consoles and stuff goes, really quickly, I have the Tachyokinetic Converter from the Low-Buy store. This has been upgraded to 14 Epic. You can see kind of some of the stuff it's got there, some turn rate, some Control X, a nice little bit of crit chance and severity. I have the Bioneural Infusion Circuits, a little bit of hull capacity, a little bit of Control X, and a very sizable bit of critical severity. Then I have the Plasmonic Leech. You can see here at the moment it deals, it drains a bit of power per activation from the target, and also grants me that same amount of power it's drained. Then moving along, we have the Kabbalah Regenerative Integrity Field. This also comes from the Samsar. So unless you had the Samsar, you will not have access to this console. Again, for me, this is going a bit higher end, so I'm going to have a few things that on the budget end people might not have access to. But again, I will be doing budget videos for this later on down the road. Anyways, you can see here it grants 26.6% additional hull healing, and then it's the regenerative integrity field that it gives you. It's 19,314 hit points. It increases in effectiveness as the HP dips. You receive 100% of directed energy damage as healing for 20 seconds. Triggers up to 10 times per second. Maximum of 2,666.5 hull restored. Minimum of 320.8. And it's on a 2-minute recharge. So it gives you a nice little emergency chunk of health back. Allows you to essentially regenerate quite a bit. Very, very good console. Has pulled my rear end out of the fire multiple times now. But, anyways, as far as some of the other stuff that we've got, the final console that we have as far as this is the Spiral Disruptor Lance. It grants 20% disruptor energy weapon damage, 12.5% cooldown reduction on intel buff abilities, so very, very good. The Lance itself, it will disable one subsystem and does a -30 to all damage resist. So very, very good thing to have there, and it's on a 2-minute recharge. And the lance itself can be rather nasty, in my personal opinion. Now, ideally, you want to shoot them while the shields are down, but even if you can't, it's still going to do a nice little bit of damage. So, very fun thing to have. I decided to mix it up a little bit since I hadn't used them in a while, and I went with some of the embassy consoles and everything, just to kind of see what I could do. I've got some Draenax on them and everything, mainly for the leech. But otherwise, you can use your Crenum Lab consoles and everything, kind of just getting a feel for it and everything. And I figured, why not mix it up a little bit? You can kind of see what they do there, a little bit of Draenax, then they give the plasma explosions that bypass shields. You don't have to have these in order to tank, but they're very, very nice to have. They give me an extra 142.5% threat while just having them equipped and while attacking, and that's per console that it does this. So, very nice thing to have there. But, anyways, that's pretty much our equipment setup and everything. We'll take a quick look at our skills, our traits, and so on, and then we'll get into our Starbase 24 run. As far as our skills go, again, pretty much standard that I've been using. You can see the Lieutenant skills, Lieutenant Commander, and kind of what I've got there. I personally do not use the ultimate abilities, as, in my personal opinion, in their current forms, they are red herrings and are not as good as they could have been, at least compared to the early triple build versions of them. If these were the early triple build versions, then I would say absolutely yes. Go for them in every case if you can. But for me personally, in my personal opinion, I feel that although yes, they are pretty nice abilities to have, they're very fun, they most definitely have uses and can be useful to the team. I personally feel, however, that in order to get one of them, you have to give up too much in other areas and you end up gimping yourself, and for me personally, that's why I don't use them. And check out the Commander and Captain rank skills that I have there, you can see really quick. And then the Admiral rank skills. Now, again, you don't have to use this exact skill build. This is just the one that I personally have found success with and that I personally have been able to make work for me. As far as the unlocks you can get down below, you can see whenever you put a certain amount of points into certain skills, you can unlock certain abilities. Now, for me personally, if you're going to tank, there's only one that I would consider mandatory, and that is the threat control ability, because it gives you an additional 100% threat for free as long as you're in threatening stance. That's the only one down below that I'm going to consider mandatory for anybody as far as tanking goes, but everything else, again, purely personal preference. As far as the specializations go, I personally am going to recommend Pilot for primary. At least for me, that's what I like to use because of some immunities and some other buffs it gives me. You can see when fully maxed out, it's got the turn rate and everything. Then we've got the rock and roll ability. We have the thick of it immunity, which can be procced whenever we have turn the other cheek. Kind of hopefully read the tooltip there. Then we also have the Lone Wolf ability, which is a great emergency defensive ability. 50% defense for 10 seconds to distribute shields to wherever you're receiving damage. So that's a very good thing to have there, and can sort of function as a rough comparison, a higher powered tactical team, so to speak. So very fun stuff to have in this particular tree. Then we also have our Strategist or Strategist, however you prefer to say it. We've got our logistical support, which is very good. Then we have Show of Force, which is nice. Additional hull healing while you're in threatening. Then we have the Maneuver Warfare, the Attrition Warfare, Diversionary Tactics, which functions as a taunt. So some nice stuff in this tree. Everything you can see, some of the stuff it gives just for having points into the tree. But overall, very, very good stuff to have. I like it. Again, these are just the ones that I've used personally. If you have something else that works for you, then by all means go for it. Again, this is just what I have found works for me. Take a quick look at our traits. As far as our space traits go, We have personal traits, ablative shell. Then, hopefully you can read the tooltip a little bit there. The beam barrage ability, the give your all, the imposing presence for the hull healing that it gives and the threat generation for free, elusive for the defense that it gives, the fleet coordinator, then the operative that we have, the beam training, the point blank shot, and then finally the career specific trait. Now, as far as some of these traits, most of them you can usually get for free within the game. I think the only one that really comes from a lockbox that I have on here at the moment is the ablative shell. But as far as the Starship traits go, I do have all 5 traits unlocked and everything. I'm using emergency weapon cycle for the weapon power cost reduction and the cycle haste. I have all hands on deck, peak efficiency, which I believe that one came from the VOMP. I'm not exactly sure. Then I have the reciprocity, which comes from the Phantom Escort and everything. Then I have the insidious tactics, actually from the Keldon itself, so that's a nice little thing to have. As far as space reputation traits go, I have aux power offensive, the advanced targeting systems, enhanced armor pen, the precision from the Romulan, and then also the energy refrequencer. As far as active reputation goes, then I have the refracting Tetrion Cascade, just because why not? It's a nice little something. Then I have the biomolecular shield generator, which poofs up the shield in space you've seen me use before. Then I have the deploy sensor interference, which allows me to essentially taunt off of myself for a couple of seconds. Then I have the quantum singularity manipulation for maxing out the Romulan rep, which gives me a temporary boost to science abilities, so that's some fun stuff that I have there. But anyways, like I say, this is just what I have personally found success with. If you don't have some of these traits available to you, then that's perfectly fine. You don't have to have them in order to succeed, but if you can use them, then I'm definitely going to recommend you give some of them a try, because they are very nice to have. But anyways, that's what we have as far as traits and everything goes. I'm going to take a look really quickly at our stations, and then we're going to get to our Starbase 24 run. As far as stations go, we have a Commander Engineering, a Lieutenant Commander Tactical, and an Ensign Science. Then we have a Lieutenant Engineering / Intel, and Lieutenant Commander Universal / Intel. As far as what abilities I'm using for the stations, I have on the Commander Engineering, an Engineering Team 1 for the hull heal that it gives. I have Reverse Shield Polarity 1 to recharge my shields. I have the Emergency Power to Weapons 3 for the energy damage boost that it gives and the weapon power. Then I have the Emit Unstable Warp Bubble, that's so I can reduce their damage and sort of, it's an emergency button. Then I have moving on to the Tactical Station, I have the Tactical Team 1, which redistributes my shields and purges tactical debuffs. I have Beam Fire at Will, which allows me to fire at pretty much anything within range up to a certain maximum. Then I have Attack Pattern Omega for the damage boost, the damage resistance that it gives, but more importantly, the movement immunity debuff, or the movement's immunity that it gives me. So that's a good thing that I have there. Now, some people prefer to use Delta instead of Omega, and that's absolutely fine. You can do that. I just personally prefer Omega most of the time, because I really don't have that many issues, except with tractor beams and that type of thing occasionally. But again, personal preference there. You can use Omega, Delta, Beta, whatever you want, but I definitely recommend you have at least one attack pattern on your ship. Then we have, for our Ensign Station, the Hazard Emitters, which is a heal over time, and purges hazard debuffs, as well as grants a little bit of damage resist. Finally, we have in the last two stations, dealing with our intel. For our Lieutenant Engineering, we have Duplicate Engineering Team 1, and then we have Override Subsystem Safeties 2. This allows us to essentially remove the cap that would normally be at 125 to grant access to additional bits of power. And after a while, once this ends, it will get progressively less and less power as the ability starts to wear off, and then eventually it will disable one of your systems for about 4 seconds. Now you can remove this disable off of yourself, but anyways, that's something I do want to mention. Then moving on to our final station, Lieutenant Commander, we have the Science Team, which gives a little bit of shield regen and purges science debuffs. We have Feedback Pulse, which is a nice little kick in the pants to the enemy and everything. Let's see the tooltip there again real quick. We have Feedback Pulse. Then for our final ability, we have the Surgical Strikes ability. This one allows me to take advantage of the Insidious Tactics trait, and also is a nice little thing to have, in my personal opinion, when you're dealing with the single targets and all that good stuff. But 20% accuracy and crit chance for 10 seconds. It will decrease your firing rate of all your weapons, but at the same time, it pretty much guarantees that you're going to be getting a lot more crits. You can use haste abilities to increase the firing rate, so that is pretty good that you can have there. And then you can see the tooltips talking about the crit chance and severity from the Insidious Tactics, as well as the beam damage from our trait. So that's some stuff that we have there. Kind of hopefully see how I've got everything set up and whatnot. Again, you don't have to do it exactly like this. This is just what I found personally works for me and does the best for me. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and get into our Starbase 24 run here in just a minute. But hopefully, if I ever go too fast for anybody, I do want to say this. If I do go too fast for anybody at any certain point, there's ever certain abilities you want me to explain why I have them on the build a little bit more or anything, please feel free to let me know. Leave a comment, leave a question, or private message me, whatever you need to do and everything, and I'll do my best to answer the question and everything. I realize I do go a bit fast sometimes, but anyways, folks, we're going to take a quick break, then we're going to come back and we're going to do our Starbase 24 run, and we're going to see how well she actually handles. Anyways, folks, I'll be right back. Alright, folks, we're getting ready to go into our second wave here, so let's go ahead and spank a couple of these guys and get this party on the road. And we've just triggered our second wave. Let's finish this guy off and see what we can do. And we can see here she moves around pretty good. The thing that's annoying is the boarding party shuttles whenever you don't have a tactical team handy. Let's go ahead and put that neg bar down. Forcha. Hopefully folks can kind of see what I'm doing as far as ability-wise. Difference between surgical strikes and fall, hopefully you guys can see that. When I'm activating my surgical strikes, when I want to concentrate on more than, well, concentrate on a singular target, normally I would have turned my full impulse off a lot sooner than what I did, but I screwed up right there. I will freely admit that. These guys down real quick. Down a fall cycle. Let's see, what else we got? Let's go. Let's hit a fall cycle right here. That's this dude. Again, one thing I do want to point out, you actually can use the lance while the shields are up. It's generally not recommended because that's going to take away from some of the damage that it does. But even then, you can still do a fairly good hit even with the shields up. Now, I've been getting lucky and it's been knocking out the shields a good couple of bit whenever I used it. But that's not always going to be the case. But if it does knock out the shields, then hey, you're doing pretty good. go and knock this guy out. And that guy got caught in crossfire. Okay, what do we have left? Need 3 Nagvars, and we can get the heck out of here. Let's see. Let's go ahead and take this guy out. Looking, I think I see one down there. There. Is there one in that group? I don't see him. But anyway. Have a Nagvar. That a Nagvar. Oh, that's a Vokuv. Let's hit this guy. And hopefully, folks, you can kind of see what I was doing there as far as when I was activating certain abilities. Is that command group over there? But anyway, the ship, it does what I need it to. It can, yep, that's the command group. I'll go ahead and do a little bonus for y'all and wipe this group out. So you can kind of see what the ship is capable of. Yeah, it's a very fun little ship. Love to fly it. Got excellent maneuverability for what I need it to. And just because I'll hit that. But yeah, hopefully you were able to see kind of when I'm activating certain abilities, everything. Hopefully you enjoyed everything. I definitely recommend the Keldon for anybody that is a Dominion fan. If you like Dominion ships, this one will definitely do you good. Just like its predecessor to the lore. Me personally, definitely glad I waited. Definitely glad I picked it up. Very great, very fun. If you're an old school bridge commander person like me, then you'll definitely enjoy seeing this ship back in action again. But anyways, folks, let's get this guy killed off. And if there's any ship as well that you guys want to see a budget done over, feel free to let me know. I'll do a budget tank for it and everything if I have access to the ship. Everything. It can be KDF side as well. I typically don't do a lot KDF side, but I will help you all out if you have a ship in mind. But anyways, folks, hopefully you've enjoyed this and everything, and hopefully you enjoy the Keldon and all that good stuff. But for now, folks, this is Captain Blade J52 signing off.